soul within the world of six. In Hanukkah we have the Greeks representing a world view that's basically physically or grounded in the physical, that represents six. The Jewish people represent 8 and 7. The 7, which is the concept of spirituality within this world, the embodiment of spiritual principles even within the physical world, but it comes from 8. It comes from the infinite. It comes from that which is above the 7, the octave that's above the world that we see. And it's really embodied in Hanukkah, because Hanukkah is 8 days. It's Shemen. And what's Shemen in Hebrew? Anybody remember? Or the word? Huh?
Oil.
Hashemen is oil. And Hashemen is the same letters as Shmone, 8.
Nice.
And the same letters as Neshama, soul. So just like if you pour water and oil into a single flask, you get the oil floating to the top and the water at the bottom. In a sense, 8 floats over 7. Miracle, infiniteness, floats over nature, the world of nature. The context within which the world of nature takes place is a miraculous, much more, a greater system. And the aspect of the 8 that comes into and insinuates itself right into the middle of the 6 is called the point of 7. It's the representative, so to speak, the umbilical cord that comes from the mommy and becomes the source of nourishment for the baby. The baby is a system that's within the mommy, and if you feed the baby what the mommy's eating, he or she can't take that. So the baby within the womb represents a limited system that's receiving nourishment from the higher system, but in such a way that it's tailored exactly to the baby's needs. Anyway, that was just a kind of a side. I like the 6, 7, and 8. And 8, of course, being the infinite, and neshama and soul, that the higher part of our soul is above, and only a little part of it comes in a very tailored way, not to upset the limits and the boundaries and the laws of the body. And then our job is to draw more down from the 8 into our 7, and to fill our 6 with more 7. Actually, this is actually a text that it says in one of the Kabbalistic texts of Etz Chaim by Chaim Vital, that we internalize the light, and also the light surrounds us. The light of 8 surrounds us, and so from the outside the light soaks into the vessel from the outside, and the light from the inside soaks into the walls of the vessel from the inside. And the point is to make the walls of the vessel irradiated with light. And our job is to refine ourselves with consciousness. And the word for consciousness, one of the code words is soul, neshama. But I'll go away from that for a moment if that's a little bit too difficult. And I want to just define again these two modes: the cosmological, the bigger picture, the teachings that Judaism gives us, which are really help us to see our place in the world, in the larger world, and our place in history. And I would even call it meta-history. In other words, the overview of history that prophecy gives us. It's so magnificent. And that the prophets of Israel, they're unequaled in their ability to rise up above history, above the Babylonian, the Persian, the Roman, and the Greek, and to see reality not within the mindset of the limited mindset that is dominant in any one point in history, and to see history from that bird's eye point of view. It's really, anybody ever thought of it like that? I don't know. Yes.
Before we were saying about 7 and 8 and 6, aside from them being very popular on the craps table, I didn't play craps. 6, 7, and 8 is like always the ones coming on the dice. I don't know if there's a connection, but so there's a connection. I won last time at craps. So I think I've never understood the 6 so much, but I think 7 to me is the order of the system. 7 days of the week, right? So the 7 represents like the system we're all in. Whereas 8, like on the Bris Milah, 8 is the higher level. That's really where you're bringing down 7 plus 1. And what's 1? Hashem. So 7 plus 1 is that higher level. So I don't know where this, I wasn't so sure about the 6, but I think the 7 and 8.
Okay, but 6 is the three-dimensional world, the 6 days of time and the 6 directions of space. And the 7 becomes the spiritual essence, whether it's within time of Shabbat or within space as that center point. The Maharal speaks about this in numerous places. He loves 8. He talks about it that there's a psalm that's based on 8 verses for every letter of the alphabet, Psalm 119, and why that is, and why in Psalm 19 it says, Torat Adonai Temima, Mishivat Nefesh, after 7 verses of the beauty of the revelation of God within nature, the 8th verse is, the Torah of Hashem is whole. It restores the soul. And again, he points out 8. And he also points out that the Midrash there that says that every time we see the word Az in the Torah, it's significant. Az is really an Aleph and a Zayin, which is, if you put it vertically, it's a 1 over a 7, totaling 8. Aleph Zayin. It's the spiritual component over the world of 7. Okay. So, please let me... any questions? So.
I think I got it. Like, aside from just which casino should I go to next?
Lakers.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, even though this is an incredible template that you presented in terms of numerology and the mysticism of the dimensions and the flow and the texts that you cited to very much correspond, aren't we still in the realm of dualistic thinking by even we're still using a quantity, namely 8, to denote the infinite, which is beyond description.
Certainly.
So can these systems within systems present obstacles, in addition to somewhat showing us the way, also sort of, how can I say, make it more of a labyrinth?
Excellent question.
Can we answer that in the question and answer period?
But just as a simple, for a moment...
Could you translate his question?
Yeah, I want to. Can we have a translation of the question?
Yeah, it's a symbolic way of thinking. For instance, we have this idea where I use the word systems within systems, that we're a tiny bubble within much greater systems. And the reason that we live down here and what our relationship is with the higher levels, and there's a lot to talk about. Another one that I had my daughter draw, because based on one of my teachers who used to talk about putting cups within, the Kabbalists very often use this, they put a cup or a glass within another glass until you have a ladder or a leaning tower of Pisa made of glasses. And the idea is that the higher one, the really actually goes all the way down to the bottom, and then it's covered over by the one below it, and covered over the one below it, and we see reality from here. But there's a spiritual essence within reality. Again, they're trying in the old days with spiritual vision, with spiritual microscopic vision, to understand the energy level behind the appearance of physical reality. Whatever. 8 is a symbolic number. We have 8, 9, and 10 in terms of the 10 spherot. A very legitimate and good question. So there's a system within the Sefer Yetzirah, which is just for our purposes, not going to what it says there, but it says that reality can be divided into 3 coordinates. There's the time axis, the space axis, and the soul axis. And so, time-space, or space-time, is the reality that we live in. And the soul part of it is, I like to think of it as, again, that our souls come from above space-time, we come into space-time. There's no way for you to prove or disprove what I'm saying, but it really is a way of thinking that can help us understand that we've been put in situations by what's called the Borei Kol HaNeshamot, the creator of all souls, Adon Kol HaNeshamot, also Ribon Kol HaMaasim is the master director of all events. And he has these souls up there in heaven, and he casts us in roles.